Digital transformation is a term we've all heard a million times, but what does it really mean in practice? Well, I'm talking today with Andriy Zhylenko. He's the CEO at Portaone about this topic. So, Andriy, how is the telco world different today than when it was before the COVID-19 pandemic?
Telecom operators and us, vendors of telecom systems, were lucky enough that we were not directly affected by COVID in terms of revenue and projects. And some operators actually even managed to sell more services because of increased demand. But one thing became very clear. It's a crucial need to adapt really fast to changing conditions on the market. One theory about how first complex life forms appeared on the Earth, that it was a stretch of ocean which was very shallow, and every tide was changing it from dry rocks to something flooded. So organisms which were there, they had to adapt, they had to survive, and this was repeating over and over, and that's how the whole thing started. So right now we've been put in this accelerator, which hasn't changed much, but it made the processes which were already running, they're already obvious, just made them go much faster. And I'm talking about the process of depth of an RFP. So traditional waterfall approach to planning the changes in infrastructure and a need for real digital transformation.
So, Andriy, what is real digital transformation?
Sadly, these days, digital transformation became a cliche. And some people think this is just, to paraphrase the famous Henry Ford quote, upgrading to digital horses. So you update some of the most obsolete components on the network, you automate some of the obviously manual processes, and then you take a big, nice CX, customer experience label, and stamp it on front of your portal. But the inherent problems remain, and they will come back later. And that's the reason why so many projects for digital transformation, they're not as successful as people hope they would be. For me, digital transformation starts with rethinking and redesign of the architecture. So we're not just deciding we're going to update BSS component here and we're going to replace this component with something better. No, it's the picture, the relationship between the entities, which ones we need, which ones we keep, which ones we add. So what is this new scheme which makes sense for us? And then we have to be prepared that this architecture drawing we create today, it will change, it should change very soon in the next months or so, because this is going to be a flexible, evolving system. And the changes or additional components to it should be added and integrated by smaller teams, by partners, by third-party vendors. So innovation can be done in each department and not just dictated by this big committee which initiates the RFP for the big change. And third one, I think something which will help, it's adoption of approaches and technologies which are already used in just the web application world and the world of cloud applications, because a lot of things are done there and we can learn from it. For instance, in 5G charging, the diameter proprietary telecom protocol has been replaced with JSON, which is web protocol, just easy, lightweight, and any developer can understand. So we can piggyback on hundreds of thousands developers and engineers created in those applications for years and make our life easier. Of course, the potential pitfall is how to keep revenue coming from existing customers, how to keep them happy during that time that it will take for this big and massive transformation to be completed. And our answer to that is gradual evolution.
Andriy, can you just elaborate on this gradual evolution?
Well, no operator would be willing to freeze deployment of new services or changes in their product catalog for 2 or 3 years until a large full-scale digital transformation is complete. Plus, there's a big chance if you create something fundamentally different, some totally new product, that your users may not even like it so much when it's actually being delivered. So instead, we propose moving in the small steps, milestones, 6 to 9 months in between. Each intermediate version produces changes to infrastructure, new services which are absolutely demanded by the market, and allows us to test some ideas about user experience and what will work and what should be changed and done in a different way. We keep our customers, we can add something new to these intermediate releases, and only then we'll get to this perfect solution. Otherwise, it may happen that the old Soviet anecdote says, when people were asking government why there is no meat in the stores, and the answer was, well, we're moving towards communism at such a rapid speed that the livestock cannot keep up. So I see a lot of operators right now being in the place where they see this great migration to the cloud native applications, to the digital BSS, but they're still behind with their existing applications and existing infrastructure.
So, Andriy, this presents the telcos with a real conundrum. How can they overcome this?
Our approach to this is to use a technique called canary releasing, and it's fairly popular among web applications. So we turn a group of pilot customers into this early adoption group. They work with a new release, they provide the feedback, we see if something went wrong there. But most important, we provide the middleware, which allows to do this transparently for the end users of our carriers, so no reconfiguration is required. Just the operator who runs two separate systems decides when and which groups of customers are going to be migrated. And then there is sufficient time to observe, fix problems if any detected, or even roll some customers back to the previous version if something cannot be fixed fast. So this saves significant amounts of engineering efforts and time for the operator, because their own team doesn't have to go for all the scenarios. And this helps tremendously when external entities such as partners or resellers are involved and connecting to the systems, because one can arrange employees to do the acceptance testing, but to make multiple resellers to adhere to the testing schedule and do their part is as futile as herding cats. So this allows operator to move from one release to another with minimum investments of engineering time and minimum disruption for outside world.
So, this approach, is this something that's available only to Porta1 customers, or can other operators benefit from this as well?
Our primary focus was, of course, to allow operators which use our billing and unified communication system to do this constant evolution. But I'm a firm believer in open architecture, and that the best products, they are created through collaboration of different entities. So this particular framework of dual version operations, we are open to providing it to other integrators, vendors, or operators who can use it to connect whatever proprietary pieces of infrastructure they already have and use it as a way to move from one infrastructure version to another one with minimum risks and minimum inconveniences for end users.
And will cloud adoption eradicate all these problems that telcos have with their software updates?
The cloud itself, it's a technology, a tool which can be used in more efficient or less efficient way, and it offers a lot of possibilities. The question is whether vendors have the courage and the guts to do more or less full redesign and refactoring of their existing solutions. It's a long and painful process. And if operators are willing to wait for the results to be delivered, and also in the process of this, perhaps sacrifice some of the short-term gains that not so many changes right now. Can some product changes be postponed until this upgrade is completed? So it requires participation and efforts on both sides.
And so obviously there are different types of cloud platforms. What's your view on the potential for telco applications to be migrated to public cloud platforms?
I think cloud is definitely ready for telcos, especially now when some major vendors, they offering telecom cloud variants of it. The question is, okay, what it would take for telcos to move into the cloud. And things which are stopping them or slowing them down would be first, just physical availability of data centers. Because for telecom applications, running something in a data center in a different country or continent may be not possible because of the network latency and all the things associated with it. But I believe this is something which is going to be solved in the next few years because all major cloud vendors are ramping up production of cloud data centers in different regions. The second one is, of course, the engineering efforts associated with that switch and migration. And it just takes time and requires just a base level of understanding of the cloud awareness among all the operating staff. And the third one, I think probably it's the most important one, it's just this superstitious fear that it's not something tangible, if not something under control. So how can we be sure it's going to operate well? And for that, my answer is it will take practice and tools like I discussed before, which allow gradual migration. So you don't just make a leap of faith into the cloud. Well, you try it first on the pilot set of customers. You move there certain elements of infrastructure and certain customer groups, and you observe and you see for yourself that these are servers, just like the ones you have in a data center, but there's more of them and they are managed by a dedicated team. And they can perform well and they will allow you to scale up and bring down the overall costs of operations. So the process is already going, and I don't think somebody can stop it. It will be only accelerating.
Absolutely. Well, lots going on in the telecoms world, lots of things for operators to think about at the moment. Andriy, thanks very much for talking to us today about true digital transformation. Thank you.
Thank you.